Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Generation Selects Deluxe Class Rotorstorm. And here we have Rotorstorm fully opened up and out of the packaging, and as he comes packaged here in his awesome looking robot mode. When Hasbro did officially announce this on one of their live streams, I absolutely knew that I had to add him to the collection regardless of the initial photos, which did showcase him having an inaccurate head sculpt. The original photos did just show him having the original spin as the head sculpt and not the actual head that would better match his original European release, but you can see here upon its mass release they have indeed corrected that and have given him the more accurate head, which in my opinion just further adds to the awesomeness of this figure. Just giving you a very quick 360 degree look at him, you can see that from the back he tidies up so nicely. For those of you who do actually have Spinister, the main base of this, the entire body besides the head, is just a recolor. However, if you have that figure you'll know how awesome it is, and I'm pretty sure that you'll want to add Rotorstorm here to the collection. Just taking him off here off of the display base and bringing him in for a closer look, we can once again truly appreciate the phenomenal detailing as well as paint applications. The electric blue as well as the electric pink that they've used on this figure I think looks fantastic. Truly does pop when on the shelf, and in my opinion is such an awesome look for this character. As we take a look here at the head sculpt, I think that the paintwork is really nicely done. There are no paint bleeds on this whatsoever, and once again I'm so glad they did actually opt to change this as opposed to just re-releasing the Spinister head sculpt. I probably would have picked this up regardless, just as I'm a huge fan of that mold, but just to see that they did go the extra mile in order to differentiate this from the original release, I'm super glad to see that they did do that. You can see that we've got an awesome pink visor as well as a silver painted mouth plate as well as nose area, and the entire head is actually painted in this really awesome glossy almost metallic looking blue finish. The entire torso region here is just a blue plastic with some silver and pink highlights. I love the Autobot insignias here on either sides of his shoulders, and you can once again see all of the clean paint apps. As we turn him around to the back, the only slight drawback that I do find with this figure is that I'm not entirely sure whether or not this is a sign of the mold degrading due to this being the second release, but the rotor here at the back definitely does feel a lot looser than on this Spinister release and definitely doesn't tab in nowhere near as securely as it did on that initial figure, which is slightly unfortunate, as when posing this figure or just generally handling this section here does begin to become slightly floppy and loose. However, I have found if you give it a really firm push it can solidify in there a lot more securely than if you just gently push it in there. But taking a look here at the paint applications here for the arms as well as the hands, I think that the detailing on this has come out really nicely, as well as here for his blasters. Something of which I would have perhaps had liked to have seen on this release is that if they would have given him completely brand new weapons. I do know that the original European release of Rotorstorm back in the day did have these almost cylindrical weapons. They almost looked as if though they were turbines, but here we do just have these same weapons that we got with Spinister, but nonetheless the detailing as well as the paintwork on these pieces I think all look really nice. And then as we turn down here to the lower section, once again no paint bleeds whatsoever, which I was really surprised to see, and you can see that the fantastic silver paint applications as well as the pink plastic complement each other really nicely. And then finally as we turn down to the feet, I think that the detailing on these is also really awesome. Turning to articulation, another reason why this figure is one of my favourites from the Siege line is because the articulation in my opinion is flawless, especially for a deluxe class. So we do have a ball joint here at the head which can rotate side to side as well as look up and down. It can also tilt side to side, which is fantastic. Full 360 degree rotation here at the arm as well as a hinge joint which can allow for a well over 90 degree bend. Full 360 degree rotation here at the bicep as well as a double jointed elbow due to the transformation, so you can see that that can definitely surpass 90 degrees. I would say that that's about a 180 range of motion. We do of course get full 360 degree rotation there at the wrists as well as a full 360 degree rotation at the waist. The legs can kick forwards that far, which is fantastic, well past 90 degrees, as well as back that far. It can go as far back as it can forward, so you can see once again that does go slightly past 90 degrees. He can do the splits, full 360 degree rotation here at the thigh, as well as a slightly over 90 degree bend there for the knee. And then finally, my favourite area of articulation has to be the feet. We have pivot forwards and backwards as well as side to side, and that has got to be some of the best ankle rocker pivot that I have ever seen on a Siege figure. So in all, just an absolute fantastic figure. Bringing in a comparison with Spinister, you can see here that Rotorstorm from the head down completely shares the exact same body to that of Spinister, but due to the drastic difference in terms of the paint applications, I really do believe that he looks as if though he is a completely different mold. The colour variation in my opinion is absolutely fantastic, and you can definitely see here the differences between the head sculpt. As stated before, I probably wouldn't have minded too much if they would have just re-released the Spinister head sculpt, as I absolutely love this mold, but seeing as they did go the extra mile to actually differentiate the two characters, I'm for sure more than glad to see that. But just giving you a quick 360 degree comparison, you can see that the colours on Spinister are still very vibrant, however are a little less more reflective than what we do get here with Rotorstorm, seeing as the majority of this this figure here is painted, rather than what we got with Spinister, which is just mainly molded plastic. But nonetheless, fantastic figures, and this one here I can highly recommend picking up, even if you already have the original Spinister figure. And so now, turning to the transformation here for Rotorstorm, another reason why this figure is one of my favourites is because he has one of the most unique transformations that I have ever seen for a deluxe class, at least for a modern day release. I just absolutely love how they've managed to make Rotorstorm and even Spinister symmetrical in their robot modes. However, he only uses one of these cockpits for his helicopter mode, which in my opinion is just absolutely fantastic. But to begin with, you're going to want to fold this tab in here into this slot, and this is definitely an area of where I would be rather cautious of, as seeing as this is completely painted, over time I can just see that this section here is going to become chipped and could potentially look rather tacky. Something else worth noting is that you may be able to see some slight stress marks here on these tabs, as well as on this side. I believe that to be the extra layer of paint, as on Spinister these sections here weren't painted. So now that we have that extra layer, it could potentially be slightly stressing out the plastic, which is slightly unfortunate. However, I don't think that it's going to break whatsoever. It's merely just a slight discoloration in terms of the plastic, but just fold the arms up here and align those there and just snap those nice and securely into place, and repeat the same process here for the opposite side, so snap that in. What we'll then do is just turn our attention to this whole back section, so just detach this piece, and then you're just going to want to push forwards on the torso, bring this forwards, and then you can see here that this will all elongate, and you're just going to want to snap that nice and securely. You're then going to want to take the waist joint here and rotate it to the side, and whilst you do that, you can lift this section up to allow for some clearance. Rotate this section here all the way around, and then repeat the same process here for the opposite side, so rotate this piece around here also. What I then recommend doing is rotating the leg around so that the cockpit is now facing upwards, as this is where the transformation does become slightly finicky, as you're going to want to hinge this panel out, and then at the same time bring this section here around. And if I just show you here at the top, you can see that we do have a tab, that this slot here will snap into place too. So you're just going to want to ensure that this is nice and secured into place, and then what we can do here is proceed to collapse this all in upon itself, and then just take this panel here and collapse that down. With that now done, we can then repeat the exact same process on the opposite side, angling this section down ever so slightly. I won't be completely compressing it as of yet. Extend the rotor blade, and then now turn our attention to this, rotate the fire round, lift this section here up, and then take this piece here, and very similarly to what we saw earlier on, you're going to want to peg this tab into this slot, so just align that up and clip that into place, and then come here to this section and just fold all of this in there. Once we have something that looks along the lines of this, this is now where we can begin compressing all of the rear section. So you can see two tabs here and here. These are going to slide into some slots on the translucent pink plastic, so just bring all of this down and snap that into place, and then this section here will also snap nice and securely as well. We're then going to want to bring the arms out here to the sides just to allow for some extra clearance, fully compress this piece, and then collapse this over the top. And you can see here now that we do have a tab that's going to peg into this slot, and vice versa here on this side, so we do have a tab here that's going to peg into this slot, so just snap those nice and securely into place. And now here for the arms, there is a tab that's going to peg into this slot, and we do have a slight slot here that is actually going to tab into this section. So you just want to align all of this up nice and appropriately, so just ensure that everything does clip in there really nice and fluidly, and then just repeat the same process here on the opposite side. So just snap this side also into place. For some reason it's slightly resisting me, but just snap that into place. Ensure that this here is also snapped into the arm, and there we have Rotorstorm fully transformed up into his awesome looking helicopter mode. And so now, very quickly going over Rotorstorm here in his helicopter mode, similarly to his robot mode, I think that he looks equally as good. Just taking him off here, once again off of the display base, you can truly appreciate the amazing paint applications that this figure has. I love this almost turquoise green that we've got going on here for the top. It's very similar to that of a teal-like colour. We've got the Autobot insignia, as well as the pink rotor blade. The tail blade is also a pink colour, and both of them do spin exceptionally well, which is really awesome. No stiffness in that pin joint whatsoever. I love how the yellow paint applications here on the blasters look, and just in all, I think that the colour scheme really does work. I'm pretty sure that it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but for me, I think that it works so nicely. And you can once again see that whilst in robot mode we did have two cockpits that were very predominant, here in helicopter mode it is really only one that does take centre stage. The faux cockpit does fold up here really nicely, and in my opinion does hide out fairly nicely as well, considering that this is only a deluxe Deluxe class. We do have some nice sculpting and detailing throughout this figure as well, which I think is awesome, and just in all, a really awesome figure. We've got some fantastic detailings here for the translucent pink plastic, as well as the silver paint applications. We do have landing gear, which has of course been cast in a pink plastic, and this too can also be retracted to your own desire. The other 2 points that it does rest on, as opposed to this piece, is the 2 tabs that we have here for the blasters. So in all, just such an awesome figure. Both of these do spin. I think that it's a fantastic looking figure, and one that I can highly recommend. And here for a very quick mold comparison, here we have Rotorstorm, once again compared to his mold mate, that of Spinister, and you can see that both of them do share very vibrant colour schemes. However, in my opinion, I slightly prefer the colour scheme of Rotorstorm than I do here for Spinister. I think that the more glossy approach has here just appeals to me, rather than the more muted colour palette that we did get here for Spinister. Not to detract anything from this figure, as stated, I absolutely love this deluxe class. However, they are supposed to be completely different characters, and this does definitely match the original design of Spinister, so I can definitely see as to why they did opt to go with this more muted colour palette. But in all, very nice figures, and definitely complement each other very nicely on the shelf, and really and truly, considering they are the same mould, I think that they definitely do a great job in looking drastically different. And so, some final thoughts here for the Generation Selects Rotorstorm. I absolutely love this. As stated throughout this review multiple times, I was always a huge fan of that original Spinister mold. He was one of my favourite deluxes from the original Siege toy line, and in my opinion, that is one of the best deluxe molds that we have gotten out of this entire War for Cybertron trilogy so far. And here for Rotorstorm, I'm a huge fan of the colour scheme, and I'm so glad that they did actually go the extra mile to change the head sculpt, so there really isn't anything here that I can complain about. I think that this figure looks remarkable in both robot mode and helicopter mode. As stated before, I think that the transformation is an absolute joy to go back and forth between each mode. The one area in which perhaps I have a slight nitpick with is to do with this whole Rotoblade section. When we have him in robot mode, there is definitely a slight looseness to it than what we got with the original Spinister. I'm not entirely sure whether that is because this is the second run of the mold, or perhaps they did change some of the tolerances. However, it's definitely not a huge drawback. I'm pretty sure that you can add some floor polish to it, or if you really just give it a firm push, it will definitely stay in there. It's just when handling the figure, it can become a nuisance, but once again, if you just have him displayed on the shelf, then there really isn't no problem to be had there whatsoever. So in all, a really awesome figure, and one that I can highly recommend if you are indeed able to track him down. I really do hope that you enjoyed my review for this Transformers Generation Selects Deluxe Class Rotorstorm. I would be really eager to know down in the comment section below what you think of this figure, and whether or not you will be adding him to the collection, and also be sure to let me know what you thought of this review. I thank you all for watching my review, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.